Greetings, gamers! Welcome to part number 60 of my Let's Play Fire Emblem 4 Genealogy of the Holy War. I think most of these units will have some level of hit on him without him being in the mountain, as the mountain gives him 30% avoid. Some of them have a little bit of an uncomfortable amount of hit. Alright, so some of these guys are actually staff-wielding maidens. I think only two, right? It's only the two paladins. So I'm going to KO one of them right now. And this should be pretty darn great. $3,000 gold. Alright, it is time to repair the broken Nosferatu, as well as get Julia's beautiful class change. Working hard. Class change to Sage, yes. This is, I think, the most broken class promotion in all of Fire Emblem. Even more so than the Master Knight, if I'm not mistaken. Because she gets a bunch of +8s. Yeah, +8. The only reason why she's not getting +8 in Magic there is because she was already going to cap. So now she is pretty insane. Like, these are her bases as a Sage. And what's crazy is she's just going to be able to go handily through the arena now. At least she should. This guy was a bit of a tough fight for her. Ooh, and might still be. Yeah. Unfortunately, too. Oh, wow. Hitting again. Very nice. Yeah, unfortunately, too, is that he's likely going to double. Yeah, and she doesn't have... She absolutely does not have anything like Miracle at this point. All right, so potentially, because I did just reset, and I went through the arena with Tinny. She's been basically my arena go-to, and hopefully this has changed the RNG enough. All right, that's one hit. Nice. Julia didn't actually miss this time. Ooh, 2 dodges. Not super likely, let me tell you, but it's definitely not impossible because there's just one RN. So a 21% chance to miss is actually not that insignificant. Nice fight and mate. Of course I feel like going another round. I think that would be her hardest fight, actually. Steel Lance on Klain. Yeah, buddy, I really just don't think you're up for fighting Julia, the Sage. Now, Julia is not anywhere near as powerful as she becomes, if you can believe it. Her stats right now, even if they were all capped, are still not anywhere near as powerful as she becomes. So at level 30, she is going to become a mite bit more powerful than this. I do believe Julia is not usable as a character for the next couple of chapters. Just like her mother wasn't, but you do eventually get Julia back. It's just kind of so late in the game, it's insane. There's a lot of debate on whether or not you should promote Julia before this happens, for obvious and specific reasons that I'm not going to necessarily spoil at this exact moment. But I've never seen an actual issue with this. I've promoted or not, I really don't think it makes that big of a deal. Triesta, the Draco Knight with the Brave Lance. Yeah, this guy could end up being a very difficult fight for her because he's doing 25 damage apiece. And she missed, which is not good. All right, so I'm golden right now. She does have to hit 2 hits. Is she doubling, though? And she is. She could also have adepted. That is one of the cool things about sages, is that sages automatically get adept, a very awesome skill in my opinion in this game. Even when it doesn't have the plus 20% in the regular Fire Emblem games, it's still an awesome skill that a lot of people just sleep on because it's like not guaranteed, but it's basically a brave weapon at any instant. Kanan with the as a Baron with a tornado is not going to do anything to Julia. He's going to have to hit her multiple times, and she's not going to. She has to miss multiple times, or he has to Pavis multiple times in order for this fight to go sour. Interestingly enough, though, Tornado weighs so little that she can't double him. But with Adept, she could technically double, at least in the sense of a brave weapon proc, basically. And that's what she did. Perfect. Julia finishes the arena. And now you can see why I turn off animations, and am so quick to do so. Could you imagine her going through hordes of enemies and that's what you had to see? Some people wouldn't mind it. I'll grant. There's probably some people out there who'd be like, yeah, gamer man, that's exactly what I want to see. But it's not what I want to see. So as a sage, she has 6 movement, which is marginally better than what she had before. She has Pursuit, Adept, and Nihil. Oh, she has Adept previously. So Sage gives Adept if you don't have it, but she already has it, of course. She has a B rank in Staves, an S rank in Light, a B rank in Wind, Thunder, and an A rank in Fire. So the A rank in Fire actually comes from the fact that her father is good old Emperor Arvis, and her mother is Deidre. That's where she gets her Naga Holy Blood. So right now she only has a attack speed of 9, so she only has basically a 30% chance to proc Adept, but that's actually not that terrible. Now, one thing you could do with her, which I'm not going to, but you could give her any one of the other tomes, like for instance Wind or Thunder, so on and so forth. Honestly, and I'm going to be very, very critical here, there is no tome that you could give her, relatively speaking, that is better than her Nosferatu. There's just none. So if your mind is to... Okay, enter. If your mind is to give her something else, for any reason particularly, it's kind of a wasted effort, if I'm being very honest with you. And the reason why it's a wasted effort is just because what does she have need of a tome that doesn't heal her, right? That's the problem, is we're talking about the levels of difference between her having a tome like Nosferatu, which heals her upon, her attacking, compared to something like Wind. Sure, Wind weighs less. It weighs actually a whole lot less. You could see utility in that. I'm not saying you can't. But it's just not enough utility to justify the change of use there from one weapon to another. Now, again, like I said, it's still there. The utility is still there because it is a much lighter weapon, so you could get more procs of things like... Really hope that Arthur doesn't die here. That would be a shame. More procs of things like Adept, but it's, in my humble opinion, it's just not worth worrying about. So actually, Arthur could potentially die here, and that would cause a big bit of a headache because I would have to reset. Hopefully that does not happen. He is going to get a boatload of gold. This is going to be more than enough for him to fully repair up his wonderful weapon. Them going in the mountains is kind of a hilarious take because there's no amount of avoid they're going to get that's going to make the Forseti miss. These are all pretty much, See, here we go. All it's going to take is one major hit outside that. I think he can survive the sword attacks, but anybody else, no. And if I'm not mistaken, the leader of this band has Tornado. Which, if he was to hit Arthur, he would actually potentially KO, because Arthur has such poor resistance. This could be a reset. Unfortunately, I've had way too many resets in this game, especially in this gen. Some of it out of my own like hastiness to do like certain strategies. It just happens. So the only thing I can do is kind of just sit back and hope and pray that he doesn't get hit again. These guys all have around like a 30% chance to hit or less. And that means that they actually have a reasonable amount, a reasonable percentage chance to hit him. Though, granted, because he was taken down to half health, he is critting all of his hits because of Wrath, which is very nice. He just has to dodge 3 more attacks and he's golden. Alright. Can he do it? Can he do it? Arthur, can you do it? The sword wielders might not KO him, because the axe wielder has typically a much more powerful weapon than the sword users at this moment, and he only did a little over half health. Alright, they all missed him, so this is perfect. And another level up. HP +1, magic +1. Hey, I'll take it. Especially because his speed is already capped. Death to all rebel scum! Only oblivion waits those who dare to threaten the Empire. Ah, see? This is what I was talking about. Unfortunate, to say the least. What a fool I was. And back to where I was. This is much better. So what I remembered is that the enemies don't take into account support and or authority star bonuses. Glory be to Granville! Glory be to you have been defeated. 3,000 gold, and I also get the Tornado. What the Tornado allows is for me to sell my other tome, which I believe is just an Elwind. Is it an Elwind? No, it's just a wind, so it doesn't really matter. And still have a decent mighted weapon. The thing is, obviously, wind is much better when it comes to hit than Tornado. So, as you can see, his avoid is 91. This is actually false. So he's getting avoid, which is just 10% from fee, and then another 20% from Self. So he actually has 121% avoid, but it doesn't show up on the stat screen. And the reason why is because avoid from authority stars and avoid from particularly lover bonuses don't show up. Now, it will show up versus like the terrain, so that is a thing, but it doesn't show up otherwise. And with that in mind, you can actually kind of take advantage of this. You can make it so that a unit like Arthur, who is already close to unhittable, is actually unhittable, but the enemies will still self-destruct on him. And another funny thing that happened, so I could not for the life of me change the RNG back to where it needed to be for Julia to pass through the arena, especially Miller. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a page that isn't out of my book, because I was literally saying that it's not necessary. But what I did was Alright, Self doesn't need to go up there. I'm going to guard. I gave Julia the wind tome, and she passed it like an actual breeze, like a literal breeze, which is kind of funny because I was literally just saying that it's not necessary, and I still kind of believe it isn't necessary, but it did help. Specifically because Miller had a brave weapon. If it wasn't for the fact that Miller had a brave weapon and was attacking first, I think Julia wouldn't have needed anything other. But that's just the case. It's what happened, so moving on from that little factoid. I only have one enemy left from the Grutia ambush, and once that ambush is taken care of, I will have pretty much free reign to go and attack Grutia. So Grutia is still kind of a big threat in the sense that most of my units can't take a bunch of hits from ballista. So I do have to be kind of mindful on how I position my particular units. I also want to make sure that Arthur and friends do get down to be useful in the upcoming fight as soon as possible. And Fee as well. Fee will be helpful. All of my units are going to basically be necessary here. Skill and speed. Not great, let me tell you, but better than nothing, I suppose. Arthur is going to be a huge linchpin in my particular strategy coming forward. He does need Forseti repaired, though. Not great. I guess I could repair it at Grutia, but if I forget to do so, I'm going to be kind of in over my head, because I definitely need him for the upcoming strategies. And recover. Might not be a lot of HP I'm recovering, and Leaf doesn't need the experience points anymore, that's for certain, but it's still useful. Patty can now start encroaching upon those wonderful homes. Perfect. Grutia phase yet again.
Pardon me, Lord Seliph. My name is Altena, daughter of Quan of Leonster. My brother, Prince Leaf, has explained the truth to me, and I can no longer oppose you. If you please, I'd like to join your ranks.
Princess Altena? Ah, yes, that's right. Prince Leaf has told me everything, and we've both prayed you would come. He'll be so glad to know you've joined us. You've made a difficult but wise decision.
I can still scarcely believe this has all happened, and yet, the moment I gazed into my brother's eyes, I understood everything. His eyes revealed my father's warm gaze. And as clear as if it were only yesterday, I felt for a split second as if I were a mere baby, once more swaddled in my mother's gentle arms.
I admit I'm still not entirely sure what King Trevant was trying to do with you. I still cannot see what would have led him to spare you and bring you home after murdering your parents.
I've heard he once told my brother, Arion, that he sought to use the might of Leonster's Holy Lance Jaybolg as his own. For that alone he needed me.
You were little more than a tool to him?
I'm still not entirely sure. For all his cruelty, he still treated me as if I were his true daughter. He was still a father to me.
Did he now? I suppose I've never known much of his ways.
I must ask a favor of you, my lord. It's about Arion. We need to help Prince Arion.
Certainly. I'm hardly eager to fight a man of his fine caliber. If what I've heard is true, the only question is, can we convince him?
I'll do my best to persuade him again. All I ask is a little time, please, my lord.
All right, so I get Altena, the final unit recruit. And this is, like I said, Eltenna. She is a level 17 Draco Knight. She's actually not pre-promoted, surprisingly enough, and she still has pretty fantastic stats. A base of 50 HP, 135% HP growth, 22 strength, 65% strength growth, 2 magic, 7% magic growth, 17 skill, 45% skill growth, 18 speed, 60% speed growth, 17 luck, 25% luck growth, 21 defense, 55% defense growth, and 1 resistance with a 12% resistance growth. So, Eltenna is interesting. She is the daughter of Quan and Ethlin, and the sister of Leif, as could be well noted in the story so far. She is the only one capable of wielding the mighty J-Bolg, the exalted weapon of Leonster. Plus 10 strength, plus 10 skill, plus 10 defense. Alongside her skills, this is actually very good. It would be better if it was plus 10 speed rather than skill. The Gungnir gives that particular stat buff, whereas this does not, unfortunately. Because she has Adept and Critical. Adept would be made way better. If she had the plus 10 speed on that, it would be insanity. She would only get a minus 5 penalty to her speed because of the weight of the J-Bolg rather than a minus 15. She only has an attack speed of 3. Abysmal, right? But the critical is helped for sure because that means that she has the ability of critting at 27% of the time at this current moment. And at a 45% skill growth, she's going to get that even better. 60% speed growth means she's going to insanely grow. 65% strength growth. All of these things make for a pretty good unit on paper. With her Nova Major Holy Blood and Minor Balder Holy Blood, her statistics, her growth rates are insane. You cannot really change anything about her except for what funds she starts with, 6980, as well as what weapons she starts with, which in this case is the J-Bolg and the Silver Lance. So there is only that. She has an A rank in swords and an S rank in lances, of course, 9 movement, which is still pretty good. Her movement and her ability to just fly over everything cannot be totally just thrown out the window. But because she has 1 resistance and a 12% resistance growth, and most of the rest of the threatening units in this game are going to be magical, not physical, her plus 10 defense is pointless, virtually. It is good for this chapter, I will say that. It is actually pretty darn good for this chapter, and there are times, there are instances, small little slivers, where she's fighting certain units, or could be fighting certain units in the next couple of chapters, that this would be helpful, especially certain Holy Blood users. But the problem is that she still doesn't really have resistance. Now, you can change this to a certain degree. You can give her the barrier sword that you would get with Layla. You could also get her the barrier ring, which those stack, so she could have plus 12 with that, so she'd have 13 resistance if she's using the barrier sword at the time. And let alone the fact that she does have a conversation with Careprey at some point. I'm not entirely sure when this is. It might be after I seize Grutia or next chapter, or I just don't remember when it is. But that conversation gives her plus 7 resistance. So technically, she can get to the point where she has much more resistance than she does right at this current moment. But even when she does, she's not really going to be able to deal with many of the holy weapon users who use magical attacks. In fact, one of them she's just terrible against. All in all, I think all of the magical Holy Blood users she just can't do anything against. This would be changed entirely if the J-Bolg had the Gungnir's particular stat buffs. That plus 10 speed really would just be better than a plus 10 skill. But that's just an unfortunate side effect of this. I think she's definitely better than Hannibal, and she's definitely better than Careprey. I will absolutely grant that. I don't think Careprey's staff utility matters like literally spit at this point in the game. There's some people who would be like, oh yeah, he's still great because his levels are free and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Nah, I just don't think so. I think he's better than Hannibal, sure. But at this point in the game, you're going to have a pre-promoted, or a promoted, I should say, Leif. And if you do have a promoted Leif, the problem is that good old Leif is kind of like insanely better than Careprey ever could be, regardless of the Valkyria staff, because the Valkyria staff is not really necessary, really, in a serious playthrough. It's just not. It really is not. It could save you an instance of being able to, or having to load, but that's about it. So, in conclusion, I think Altena is... I think she's a good unit for her physical damage, and there's going to be times where I'm definitely going to utilize her, especially after promotion. But, she's kind of an unfortunate casualty of the late game join of Genealogy, in which most of the rest of the units in this game, the threatening units, so there are still physical units even to the very end of this game, but most of the rest of the threatening units in this game are magical based. And with 1 base resistance, even with the +7, even if she has a barrier sword and a barrier ring, like, grand scheme of things, it's not really going to change her combat all that much. She would be more useful against certain units, of course, but you're missing out on some things if you're going to use, like, the barrier sword instead of the J-Bolg in order to deal with combat. And of course, you're definitely not going to put her in, like, status stave range. So unfortunately, like I said, I think Altena is just not really all that great. And because of that, she is just pretty much gonna permanently be left behind. I am going to be using her, so this isn't me saying that she is not useful at all, but it's going to be one of those things where I'm gonna have to basically stretch to find uses for her. Alright, time to dance. Okay, they are paired. That's nice. Fee, I think Fee is the last of the units that needs... Oh, come on. Alright, I'm not going to bother with you anymore. But I will KO you with Zed. I really, really wanted that KO to be on her and not Zed, but oh well. So after you take Grutia, there is quite the interesting turn of events in this chapter, and that just has to do with the fact that a lot of reinforcements come from the Thracia castle, and it's kind of insane.
Thracia has many generals in its service, but Lord Hannibal is the most revered of them all. The man has devoted nigh on his entire life to the battlefield, so he never found a wife. Mind, 12 years ago or so, he did take in an orphan. He treats the boy as if he's his own flesh and blood. What a wonderful guy.
5,000 gold, going straight to Patty, which is also going to go straight to somebody else. And I think that's pretty much everything for this turn. I actually still have to do positioning for the next turn with certain of my units, so not really that big a deal. The reason why I have to do some of this positioning is because I would like... Alright. Finn can move back 1. Dermot here. Ares here. Uh-huh. I'll put you right here. I actually think I don't want Ares out front necessarily, because Leaf needs to be able to heal up and stuff like that with my units. I'm probably going to need it over these next couple of turns, so he's going to be going with my units Dermot, Arthur, Seliph, and Leaf. those are going to be the 4 that I'm constantly dancing for. And that will be the end of my turn. As simple as that. Oh, Patty could have moved. That's unfortunate. All right, let's make sure I keep that in mind first and foremost. I'll use Patty's movement. Oh, hey, you've gone and sorted out them Imperial reinforcements already. Wow, I'm pretty dang impressed. Well, thank you for your impression. Fee can move. Sed needs to get onto the castle. I definitely don't want to forget something as important as that. And then Selif's crew can all start moving now. Lean can go right here, so I'm going to put my units there. All right, perfect. Leaf and... Oh, Dermot can't reach. Are we joking? Anybody else? I guess Ares could, Lester could. I'm going to move Lester. I think Lester would be better for this. Figures I put him in a mountain and he can't even reach. Dance, of course. And with that dance, I have just Grutia to deal with. Unfortunately, Altena, even with her movement, is kind of out of position here. Otherwise, she would actually be kind of useful to pick off one of these guys. Okay, so... barring just a little bit I have to do... So what I'm going to do actually here is I will be attacking with these 3 units to get rid of 3 of these Grutia ballista, but I do plan on seizing this turn, and the reason why is just so that I don't have to worry about the ballista dealing with the rest of my units. 93 KOs on that Brave Sword. So this is pretty much going to be a guaranteed KO situation. Alright. Perfect. Just getting KOs on these weapons is more than good enough. Even if it means I'm going to miss out on some. Arthur can... So Arthur has to stay near this particular castle. Perfect. One shot. Yeah, Arthur has to be able to repair his weapon next turn. And then Leaf can go right here and take out the commander. Doesn't matter who he takes out, honestly. And of course, besiege with the Brave Sword. A liberation army, is it? There is no place for your precious light in this realm. This world is Lord Lopter's for smother in darkness. Yeah, you weren't surviving, buddy. Lord Lopter's return is nigh, and when it comes, you will all. Well, he didn't get to finish his statement. Speed, please. HP 2, defense 1, nothing. Lewin, do you think Arion still intends to fight us? Looks like it, but now is not the time to decide that little matter because it is the end of the episode. I want to thank you for joining me. If you like my content, please upvote and follow, or like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and while you're at it, have a great and glorious day gaming.